This is the Music Maestro Podcast. We're back once again. This time, I've got a guy. I love this guy to death. He has got one of the cutest faces in the music industry, although you're not really in the music industry anymore. But we're going to delve into that. Mike McNamee.
Thank you.
Is that how you say your surname?
McNamee.
Oh, no.
You've got that wrong for 10 years, but you
Well, we're not starting again. I'm fine with that. I prefer McNamee.
Whatever. You were my old boss, so
Okay, cool.
You should have got it right first time around, but
Well, listen.
it's fine.
What we're going to do is the usual.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to you about kind of where it all started with music, the career path. And you've got an interesting one, obviously, you've been at 2 of the 3 majors. Obviously, we work together at Ministry, and we'll touch on what you're doing now as well. Mm-hmm. Lots of topics to talk about. There's a lot going on in the music industry right now. So I think let's get straight into it and go right back to the beginning with music. Where did it all start for you?
Similar to you, I think. It was Michael Jackson, Whitney, the classics.
I mean, those 2 are they're peak, aren't they?
Yeah. And
I'm surprised you said. I wasn't expecting you to say Whitney.
Oh, mate,
she's number 1, isn't she?
Number 1. I think my mum took me to a Michael Jackson concert when I was like in the belly. She was obsessed. She was obsessed.
Yeah.
And then Whitney, obviously, that was huge. My sister Rachel's named Rachel because of the role that Whitney Houston played in The Bodyguard.
No way.
Yeah.
That's a quality film as well, man.
It's so good.
Yeah, I love it.
So good. And then from that, obviously had the Beatles, Liverpool connection.
Of course.
Had no choice.
Yeah.
That's kind of everywhere. But then I was really close to my nan and granddad, and they were into the swing, the Rat Pack.
I think I vaguely remember talking about this once with you.
We tried to do a swing album compilation.
We did.
Yeah.
Big band swing. When Cool was King.
Yeah.
That was it.
I mean, I think it flopped, but
it was actually no. Well, it wasn't. There were some much worse ones than that. It was a Christmas release. I remember. I think it did about 100,000.
Yeah.
So,
and I think you asked me to curate that one, and I was like, "This is easy. Just copy my own playlist."
Okay, so a bit of swing there as well. What else?
And then around that, I just remember being in the back of the car when I was a kid. My dad gave me his CD player, like the shockproof one. I remember it so vividly, and we'd be going between Liverpool and Manchester because the Trafford Centre had just opened in Manchester, which is like a Westfields.
Yeah.
And it was like the hottest thing to do. And I was in the back of the car with the CD Walkman. But
just to say, the funny thing about those shockproof CD Walkmans is they weren't shockproof, were they?
They were awful.
If you went over a little bump.
Yeah. A little bit of gravel.
Chaos.
Back to track 2 straight away. And then they gave me like compilation CDs back then, like the Nows, like the I get a CD from my cousins who were a bit older who were into Clubland.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'd be in the back of the car and I'd just have like swing, I'd have Michael Jackson, Thriller, I'd have Whitney, and then I'd have this like Clubland. So I had this quite eclectic taste.
Yeah.
Like presented already in front of me.
Yeah.
Without like choice. Then I think my first like entry points into where I discovered music for myself and what I liked was as soon as the Skybox got introduced.
Oh, what? Because the music television, not just MTV, but yeah.
Oh my word,
do you watch a lot of? Because I do remember that well, and actually, it's very much an era for me. When I hear certain tunes, I think of that music television era. Kiss TV was a big one for me. I don't know if it was for you.
I went through them all. I remember just scrolling every time an ad break came on, up one, and I'd go to the next channel. But because I was so used to listening to a broad range of music earlier on, when that came around, I was like a kid in the sweet shop. So I'd go from MTV, think it was 401.
There's a box as well.
The box, and then MTV Bass.
MTV Bass, Trevor Nelson, amazing.
And then I'd have on MTV Bass in the evening, it was Zane Lowe's Gonzo Show. Yeah, which is a bit more indie rock. Team's face, and so I had that. But then I also went to Scuzz and Kerrang.
Right.
And the videos for for those channels in that genre is what blew my mind. Like seeing Slipknot for the first time, I was like,
really?
What is this? This is wild. Well, my background, my family, like not religious, like we're Catholic. We brought up Catholic. So seeing something like that, I was like, give me. And then I had that. And then at the same time, you had Missy Elliott music videos and you had Busta Rhymes. So you've got channel, say 307 and channel 308. Yeah. You're spoilt. So I remember being like obsessed with that and being in school and couldn't wait to get back from school, running home, sticking it on. Me and my sister used to fight over the remote because she's younger than me. Yeah. She'd want MTV bass. Yeah. And she'd want a bit more R&B and pop. Fair play to her. Yeah. I was like, give me the heavy metal. Give me a bit of Linkin Park. And that's where it kind of went from there. And then every time I kind of got a part-time job, the money I got in the department store or the shop that was working next door to that was a huge HMV. So I think I get paid $250 for my weekend job and I'd go straight into HMV and blow half of it on CDs. I'd buy anything.
And are we talking singles, albums and compilations? Or
albums.
Were you an album person?
Yeah, because I'd done the compilation side of things. I was like, okay, what does this song sound like in a track listing that is being curated and programmed by somebody? Why is it track 3 of 10? Why isn't it lower? Like, what's the sequence of that? Why is that? So I kind of wanted to find out more of the journey and the curation process of a project.
But you're talking about an artist album?
An artist album, yeah.
That's interesting. Because I think I never really was an album person. There's the odd one that stood out for me that I got into, but I was always more about getting the singles and obviously ultimately the compilations. But
then that's because you then went down the DJ route where you were just selecting the single, you weren't playing.
Maybe. I think it was just more. There aren't many artist albums that you can listen to beginning to end. And I've never been good for like patience in that respect. Like if a track came on, a little bit like the music television, if a track came on I didn't like, right, skip to another channel. You couldn't do that with an artist album. So like I had to really like I remember like for the ones that stand out in my head are things like Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory. I could listen to that beginning to end all day, every day. There's Prodigy, The Fat of the Land, those kind of ones. It's weird because they literally soundtrack a particular moment in your life. But like I said before, even with the music television, that's what it's called, isn't it? Music television. Yeah. There's just those songs I hear, and you mentioned like Missy and Busta, and they definitely, I think like, Give Me Some More, Busta Rhymes, or Put Your Hands Where, what's that one?
Yeah, and then you had Nelly, and you had Ride With Me, you had that all of that, that kind of explosion.
It's quality, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was just in your face. That's what I loved about it. It was just so in your face. Like it wasn't a reserved thing. It was like, right, this is like the level. Like I looked at the videos thinking, this is the level of like where an artist needs to be.
And so, how old are you when you're battling with your sister for the remote?
We still do it now when I'm home. I'd say secondary school. So yeah, so what, 11 to 14.
All right,
it's a good 4 years of fighting and
so where did it go then from there?
Then I think I started to transition more into rock.
Right.
Just because I thought I liked songs more. I know it sounds so industry, but I like.
Sorry, can I ask another question? Are you one of these people that like sort of listens to lyrics and knows lyrics?
Back in the day, absolutely. That's what I'm saying with albums. Like, I've always loved melody in anything.
Right.
Like,
but there's a difference to melody because I'm melody, sure, but like for me, like voice was just another instrument. So I wouldn't really pay much attention to what the lyrics or the meaning of them. It was just like it's quite another instrument.
Yeah. So the lyrics for you are quite passive.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I could take it.
You just wanted to get.
Yeah. Whereas some people were like, the lyrics in that song. I was like, yeah, cool.
Yeah. I've not wanted to be like, Johnny Cash, like, love what he's doing, love like all that. But I was aware and I wanted to hear enough of the lyrics to be like, okay, this is actually, there's something behind this song. It's not just a good song.
Yeah.
But I think the real kind of change, the pivot point for me was probably 14 when Bon Iver did a Jules Holland very early on. And I think it was for the For Emma album. And it was probably the one time that me and my sister had sat in the living room and that came on and we both just looked at each other and were like, what is this? This is just next. This was just like open. This was lyrics.
Yeah.
The right amount of melody for us to both like get on a level.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, it was just a real vibe. And I went down that rabbit hole. So then I went down singer-songwriter stuff. And then obviously when I started to go out around 17, 18.
Where were you going out?
Well, Liverpool, this is a tough one because when I was growing up, Liverpool was predominantly rock and indie band led. Whereas now I think it's flipped that and say it's definitely gone house, tech house. That's a huge difference. So I was going to a lot of indie nights and band nights, not by choice, but because
that's what was
there wasn't. So my friendship group was into that. But then the real kind of transition was when I went to uni.
Right.
When I went to Leeds Uni. And
this is where you did graphic art and design?
Yeah, and I've never used it.
Yeah.
In the 8-9 years since
it's quite common. Yeah.
Not used it. But I just wanted to be in a different city, heard good things about Leeds. It was 3 universities in one city. It was just a good place to be. And going out was Mondays, you go to see a tech house night. And I was like, right, this is a bit of me. Tuesday would be a heavy metal night at the Cockpit in Leeds, which was an iconic building. And then Wednesday you'd roll into a student night. And it was just that for a whole year. Quality. And then I remember thinking dance music is now my new thing. I want to experience this a bit more.
Yeah.
So I went down that route.
Who was it, like I guess then when it comes to dance, that really drew you in to that scene or that sound?
Not surprisingly, but we were listening to a lot of like YouTube mixes, and Disclosure was super hot at that time. I remember hearing him on SoundCloud, and I had him on SoundCloud fairly early on. I think that's after we were getting signed. And I remember thinking, this is next level. So I remember sharing that with everyone that would listen to it.
Yeah.
And then it was at that point when I was doing my live nights in Leeds, doing rock and metal, wherever, student nights, and booking talents and sending promoters who had bigger artists playing, say, the O2 Academy. I'd send them development things that were coming out of Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, the North.
Development artists?
Yeah, very early, just wanting to give them a platform. And I remember that period, I was like, there's something in this. I really enjoyed joining the dots of, I found something.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it. And I think it will also work for what you've got going on in terms of your art and your audience. So that's when I think I'm subconsciously started to tap into the curation label structure of what's going on without even knowing it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, that's good because what I was going to ask is from there, I guess that's like uni, how your first job, if I'm not mistaken, was at Universal as part of the compilations team UMTV, correct?
Yeah.
How did you land that role?
Looking back now, it was very, very confident. It was very bolsterous. I did the usual thing and looked into who was signed to what label. So I think my mum still got it now. I've got a chart in my bedroom, there's no way to lie, the chart with every label at Universal, because I really wanted to work for Universal because all my favorite artists were coming at Universal.
Right. So
I made a chart of each label within UMG, and then put every artist.
Oh wow!
Domestic,
yeah,
and international.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a step. We've done that here. Like Nikesh did that a long time ago, where we've got the majors with all the subsidiaries underneath it. But you've put the artists as well.
Yeah, because that's
next level.
Yeah, because I left uni and my dad was like, right, you've done that now. Obviously, you're going to come and work with me on the tools. And I was like, no, not a chance. He was like, what are you going to do then? Well, you need to. And I was like, all right, well, I really enjoy music. I went, well, go and do some of that then. I remember, not that he kind of tasked me or said, you've got to go and get a job in music within this time frame. He just kind of said, you've got to make this happen, right? Like this is what you've done 3 years at uni for, you've got to go and figure it out, otherwise you've wasted it. So that was kind of the good kick at the backside that I needed. Anyway, I had the chart of all the artists. So then I found the info at universitymusic.com email address and naively emailed and then expected to get a response within the next day. Obviously not a chance. So then I called up, I think
massive.
Yeah, I called up the HR team, and I was like, I found this woman's name.
Yeah.
Sylvia, absolute legend.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So honestly, Sylvia's honestly like the big component into why and how I got into the industry and where I am. And I remember saying to HR, I've got a meeting lined up with Sylvia in the HR team, but I can't find the email. I've lost it. Complete waffle.
What? That was not true?
That was not. Oh, no.
You were just looking to get a sneaky way to get hold of an email address?
Yeah. I was just going Google. I was LinkedIn. I was like, that looks like. So they were like, okay, cool. Give me your email and I'll see what we can do. And then I gave my email, and then I got an email from Sylvia. And then she was like, I've got no record of this. She was like,
who are you?
And I was like, and I blagged it, and I said, look, I'm in London next week. You fancy, can I come see you for a coffee?
Yeah.
I'd never been to London. I was back in Liverpool at this point.
Massive.
And I remember I borrowed like 20 quid off my dad to go to London for the day. Got to London, hottest day in the year. I was stressed.
What year is this we're talking now?
2014.
Right, okay.
And it was the summer, I think it was the week after my birthday, and I was like, right. So I went all the way to High Street Kensington. Didn't have city map. I was completely lost. Got lost. So anyway, I had the meeting with Sylvia, and I remember we just got in the room and looking around her office, and she had posters, and it was the Beatles, and it was like Frightened Rabbits, a band I used to love back in the day. And there was just other things that I was like, right, if you're into all this, I was like, I think I've got you. I think I'm okay. And then we started talking, and she went, are you a Scouser? And I was like, yeah. And she went, oh my God, I've got friends in Liverpool who just left uni there. I'm going back in a few weeks. So then when you've got this, like we had similar interest in the music and then the Liverpool connection.
A bit of a rapport.
I was like, right, we're in. Like, what are we doing? And then she was like, look, everything's gone for this next round of internships. She said, but I like how you carry yourself. I like what you're talking about. I like that you've got passion for it. The usual things that you do when you're applying for the internship that people say. But she went, but there's this new team that is kind of developing and looking to grow in the central service team at Universal Music. And it's called UMTV. And then she was like, do you want it? I went, yeah, absolutely, yeah. She went, do you want to know what the job is? I went, I'll take it. So this was like on a Thursday, and then I was like, when's it start? And she went, starts next Monday. So I was like, right. My dad said to me, you've got to go and get a job in music. Went to London, had a conversation, had a job the next week. Completely.
You blagged it, mate.
I blagged it.
You blagged it.
Yeah, but I also blagged it when I got a job with you as well. So
okay. So again, you're doing this well. It leads me on. But I mean, let's talk about before we move to ministry. Like, what were you doing there?
Went in as obviously the assistant role to the team, and I was just sourcing. They was primarily doing compilations. Yeah. Right. And obviously compilations was huge business 2013, 14, 15. And I was sourcing masters, ISRC codes, correct artworks, proofing things, listening to mixes, the stuff that I was like, right.
The admin-y kind of part of the role.
But in my head I was like, I'm getting paid for it. Granted it was peanuts, but I'm like, I'm getting paid to
do what I love, right?
And then as I'm doing that and I'm sourcing masters from different record labels, different imprints or sub labels.
Yeah.
I was like, right, I've got the emails now.
Yeah, you're building up a little database.
So just every time I got to say a master for say Drake from Ireland, I grabbed Twins, email, done that, and everything. Just that process repeated. I had a little blacklist. I really enjoyed that because it was a really good team, and the people on that team who my lifelong friends, really good people, and we just got on really well, and we had success at the same time. And then I worked my way up, and then started to do a bit more on the track listing side for the compilations because I found A&R was more of my bag.
Yeah,
and then there's a really big shift in priority within all majors, but especially at UMG, that compilations was really big business, but then something called Spotify was starting to gain momentum, and it was a really big conversation in every meeting that people were talking about it in marketing meetings and strategy meetings. So I was like, so they were like, cool. And then the three of us in the team had developed a playlist on Spotify that was born from a physical compilation called This Is House. And then that playlist grew and grew and grew. And I think it got to like 25,000 followers. And the senior powers at Universal started to get wind of this and said to all the labels, you need to start pitching your tracks to these guys to get support in these playlists so we can generate revenue. So without even knowing we were becoming programmers, working editorial, we were doing that. And then that just gained massive momentum. I think at one point it had 100,000 followers. It was insane. Like to get track one on that playlist, like
it's big numbers for a third party playlist at that time.
100%. Right? And again, there was no real marketing behind it because there was no TikTok. Insta was not what it is now. There's no capability of stories, so you had to be a bit savvy with it. And we'd promote the playlist via a note in the booklet from the compilation.
Right. Yeah. Little
like
plug.
We were cheeky. And then it got to a point where you'd have Disclosure competing for track one in the playlist would say, I don't know, like say Sam Felt or someone. And we were like, right, this is really important. And then, I did that for about 18 months, 2 years. And I was like, right, now what? Internships kind of coming to an end.
Okay.
And I was like, what do I want to do? Where do I see myself?
So the that was going to be my question. The reason then for you looking for your next challenge, was that because you had an internship for a fixed term and that was coming to an end?
Yeah, it was. That was the usual year. Then it got extended to 18 months when the playlist was doing its thing. And then after that, at the right time, I think it was like a month ago, was when someone slid into my DMs on LinkedIn.
So it's funny you mention this because I'm going to be honest, I've got no recollection of me sliding into your DMs. That wasn't even an expression back then, but like, explain it because I'm not even sure it happened.
I mean, it's not. It
definitely happened.
It's definitely happened. There's that, but then there's also other things around it that was a component of how I ended up working at Ministry. Yeah, I'd had a few recommendations from my team to you and the Ministry team saying whatever they were saying, and then I think you were bombarded with so many tips and like recommendations that you're like, right, I found.
Oh, you made yourself a nuisance.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then that's when you
that works. That works. It worked. I mean, you got the job at the end of the day, didn't it? But it was an interesting. I mean, let's go into it then. That kind of process of you leaving UMTV and coming over to Ministry, who at the time UMTV and Ministry were like, that was like Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, Everton. They were rivals,
head to head. Yeah, and it was fun. It was fun. Like I remember like checking the midweeks. I don't sound that, but for compilations. But it was serious numbers in the compilation chart, and then you'd be 2,000 higher than us. We were like, right, what have we got to do with this? And I just love that. Yeah, that was great. It was a really good time.
So how did there was after you bugged me with DMs or whatnot.
You bugged me.
How the interview process was an interesting one, wasn't it? We talk about it a lot. Yeah. But obviously with Ministry, we were discussing before, like there was a rigorous and to some degree militant interview process. Talk us through your experience.
Yeah.
Well, talk us through what you can anyway.
Yeah. Well, the process of Ministry, like I always say to anyone who's looking to work at Ministry Club or Ministry Records, the A&R, the HR process there is fantastic. Like it always has been. Like the caliber of people that go into Ministry and then come out of Ministry, like look where they are now. It's just a really good talent pool. So hats off to that, especially at that time. But my process you put me through it, man.
You had multiple rounds.
I had four interviews.
Yeah.
I had 4 interviews, and one was a face-to-face with you. That was good. Second one was a meeting the team, I think it was. Right. That was quite key because when we all went out, I remember again thinking, this is done. Like, not backing myself, but I was like,
yeah.
It was just good energy that night. It was really well. And then the third part of it was a practical. And you gave me a brief to go and do. The usual thing, you give briefs.
Yeah. Still doing it now.
And you gave me a brief and you said, can you send it over on a PDF for this new album? And I was like, yeah, I can do that.
This is where you utilised the graphic art and design, right?
The one time.
And it was quality. I remember it really standing out.
And then I remember thinking, right, I don't know if I'm in... There's 3 or 4 of us in the conversation this time to get the job. I also got wind that there was somebody internally who was going for the job. So I was like, right, I need to get ahead of them there. Right now it's theirs to lose. So then I remember thinking, I've sent the PDF, fine. But then I was also like, well, they're asking me to curate a compilation for a physical thing. So I was like, let me make that physical thing.
That's it.
So I remember making the artwork.
Yeah.
I printed out really good quality. I printed the track list and out the whole shebang. The CD print, did all the overlay with that. And then...
That is levels.
Yeah. And then I just remember the whole thing. Like I spent good hours on that.
Yeah.
Even when I did it, I was like, that's a...
If I don't get this job.
Yeah. I remember thinking, right, that is... Because I've always been creative. I love being creative, but I love being creative around others.
Yeah,
I just love that exchange and that energy that you get, and it's like dynamite for me. So when I sent that over in the post, I used Universal's courier to get it over to you. I remember
cheeky again.
Yeah, I remember thinking, I'm leaving in a week anyway. Just do it. So yeah, I got it over, and I remember you calling me, and you were like, that's serious. That's serious. And I was like, right, okay, they've got it. They've all had a conversation around it. And then you said, look, there's one final interview, and this is with
Hector.
Yeah.
Hector Dewar. Very difficult man to please, basically.
Yeah.
It was always like, it was so rigorous. And when we used to come to that part of the hiring process where basically you had to essentially be grilled by Hector, who is, let's be honest, a scary man, right?
He's intimidating.
Quality guy, if he likes you.
Yeah.
But very scary man. For whatever reason, he seemed to like me at this time. And I actually remember saying to him, briefing Hector, because it gets some points where like, I don't think we'd see interviewees again after they'd been grilled by Hector. I'd said to Hector, look, I really like this guy. And I'm just want to make sure that we, that go to town, but just ease off a little bit. But like you said earlier, that grilling to really test, asking certain questions, whatnot, it was necessary. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes when you get into that level where you got like 3 or 4 strong candidates, in this instance, you were very, very much the standout, but you really need to kind of, separate the wheat from the chaff, basically. And so, yeah, I very much remember that. And going into the club, didn't we, to do that?
It was so intimidating because you say you briefed Hector.
I think I briefed you, didn't I?
You briefed Hector, but you also briefed me.
Yeah.
In the reception. I remember who was at reception as well. I remember the front of house. Yeah, it's just, the whole thing. That's the first time I've been in the club, but the first time in the label. So I'm sat in the reception waiting for this meeting. And you walk over and say, right, you're going to meet Hector. He's a serious guy. And then you said he's going to ask you random questions that aren't about the job. And then you said, he's going to ask you what your thoughts are. He said he may ask you what your thoughts are on capital punishment.
Yeah.
Don't answer it, like try and go around it and try and bring it back to music. But then, okay, I thought I went into conversation, and we were in the ministry club, and it was just intense because we had this small table in the middle of the room with 3 chairs, and I was like,
it was so it was.
I was like, because you said that, I knew that it was all tactics, right? It was
yeah.
And then just walk in and shook my hand, and he obviously says, "Well, what do you believe in capital punishment?" And obviously, I didn't listen to you.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, obviously, like, gave my opinion on it. Like, obviously, like, this fucking big question to ask. Like, you can't be saying this. And then that happened. And then he turned to drugs.
Yeah.
I remember this so clear. Like,
the question was, have you taken any?
He said, no, he said, how many times a week?
Ah, sneaky. Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, a week? I was like, how many times a week did you take it? And he went, I'm asking you. And I was like, well, obviously I was like, you can't ask this question. I was like, also, you're asking me this question and it's a bit ironic when we're sitting in
Ministry of Sound.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a bit ironic that probably the electronic music wouldn't be where it's at or where it is right now.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that culture.
Yeah.
And then I remember he just looked at me and said, don't do it at your desk.
It was a good answer. And I think to go back to the point, like we came out of that and there was more to it, the grilling than that. But I went straight up to Hector afterwards and I was like, what do you think? And he said, yeah, he's good. Employ him. And that's all I was after, that.
Yeah.
I knew we were on to a winner with you. And obviously, yeah, I don't know how many years it was we worked together, but we had a really good team, didn't we? And we were delivering. The output was top notch, and
it felt more than my time there was 2 years.
Was it? Okay.
And it honestly
felt longer than that.
Felt way longer. Like, yeah. But then I'd also say I grew up at. I know it sounds a little bit soft. I think I do believe I grew up at ministry.
Oh, man, I massively did. Yeah.
It's just the culture of.
It's unlike anything I've ever experienced, that culture.
Yeah, 100%. If anyone's been lucky enough to have worked at ministry, like, I think they'll all say the same thing. Like, it was just a really good time to be around.
Yeah.
It was everyone passionate for dance music. Everyone got on well. The recruiting process was so intense that the people who were in the building in your team were obviously going to be good.
Yeah.
So the team that we had, I remember the compilation team was split into two. It was in marketing and then it was in curation, and obviously I was in the creation team, and our team was just killer. It was so good. It was just energy, ideas thrown around. You and Naz led the team. Like, it was like always like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And again, that's where I was like, I'm in the curation team here, but I want to add to the creative. I want to add to the plans, the strategy, what we're doing, like campaign wise. And that's why I love that hybrid role that I eventually managed to angle myself in.
At ministry?
Yeah.
Okay, so because you then had a similar type of role when you went over to Relentless, part of Sony Music. How did that job come about when you moved from ministry over to Sony?
Ministry got bought out by Sony, and obviously a lot of people went taken over in that process, the vast majority. But then the vast majority of us ended up getting jobs anyway because everyone knew how good the talent was. So, really good friend of mine, Hannah Coulson, our friend Hannah Coulson.
Big up Hannah.
Over at Ireland. At the time, she had just worked a campaign with Relentless Records and Ministry on a Nadia Rose track. And Nadia Rose was signed to Relentless. So Hannah, being the legend that she is, she put a word and said, this guy is super ambitious, really creative, really on it, good ear. You should take him. So again, I had a couple of interviews with Relentless, went in initially as a A&R scout, A&R assistant. But then I realized the team is quite robust. It's a small team, it's a nimble team. And I was like, sitting in A&R meetings thinking, okay, this is cool, but then what happens when I leave this meeting with the marketing? Like, what's next? So I just asked if I could stay around for the marketing meeting that would happen after A&R. And then again, I found myself in that hybrid role where I was talking to the A&R team and in the marketing team. And then the guys were like, oh, your friends are now at other record labels doing streaming roles.
Yeah.
And they're talking to Spotify and Apple Direct. So this is when the head of streaming role wasn't a thing. Like, it wasn't a thing. It was always done by a role. Correct. It was always done at that time by the central service teams. But I think Relentless got to a point where they were like, we need somebody to be speaking purely about Relentless stuff direct, and we're not one of, say, 10 songs from the group that's being played in that meeting.
Yeah.
So I was tasked to go and make relationships at DSPs and just send songs. And then by doing that, ended up being a streaming plugger.
Yeah.
And that's where I was there for 6 years.
So Sony Relentless, some notable artists obviously are on their books. Like maybe let's touch on some of the highlight campaigns for you whilst you were there.
I think the two that really stand out will always be Heady and Tom Walker.
Heady One.
Yeah, Heady One. Purely because both completely different artists.
Mm-hmm.
Different artists, both super, super talented. Really, really like progressive in what they were doing. And it was different. And Relentless has always been good at spotting talent. I don't know most labels are, but the conversation when scouting for talent would always be, what's the audience? What can we do? How can we talk to them directly? And Heady was doing some really interesting stuff with drill. It wasn't even a thing. He was doing freestyles. He still had the balaclava on. And then, we signed Heady super early. So there was Heady was bubbling. Heady was moving. But then when he joined Relentless is when it really went up a few gears, because we took something that was really niche and not popular culture and helped move it over into more of a general kind of consumption. And that was super interesting because we did mixtape. We did the Drake thing happen, which was out of nowhere. I think that turnaround was like 3 days.
Yeah. And
then we did the Ain't a Different song with AJ and Dave, and stuff like that just like happened, and it was just loads of excitement going on around him, because I don't believe if he wasn't signed to a major, I don't think he would have got to that size that quickly. I don't know, that's my opinion. But then also Tom Walker I remember that Jamie had found Tom. He was a feature artist on a SoundCloud link for another artist, and then Jamie went, what is that prick disease? And Tom didn't have a Facebook page or nothing.
Wow.
And then we developed that. We did single. A lot of things worked in our favor in terms of like promotion and really big assets that came along the way in terms of like TV stuff and opportunities. And we got that across the line. So working those two albums from like the real infancy, like real infancy where there was nothing massively going on, to then getting them one albums and then Tom getting the Brit Award, that was next level.
I mean, it sounds like for me when I with Tom, from what you were saying about discovering him as a featured artist on SoundCloud, there probably wasn't much of an audience there. Perhaps not much of a scene or a culture, whereas Heady had the drill, the scene, the culture, that perhaps the audience as well. Mm-hmm. I guess that's one of the reasons you've got someone who with an existing audience that you build upon. You've got to kind of start from scratch with Tom, right? Yeah,
and it really wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. But look, Tom is a really talented artist, really creative, really, really talented. Good management.
Yeah.
The label.
How important is that, like good management?
I think, it's super key.
Yeah.
It's super key because you want management to...
I mean, I guess my point is obviously good management is preferred, but how, like, I guess... let's Tom as an example. When they've got good management, how much of a difference do you think that makes?
A lot, because you want that person to be the buffer and translate what you need. Sometimes, obviously, you don't always marry up and match what your interests and what your ideas are. So there's some conflict there. So you need somebody to buffer that and translate it in a way that both parties can understand where they're coming from. And that's quite key. It's really key. Otherwise, you've got... that could potentially be a bit of a minefield.
Okay, so you were at Sony for quite a spell. Was it 6.5 years you said?
6.5 years, yeah.
At what point then did you decide, you set up your company, your agency?
Yeah, CCA.
Creative Collective Agency, CCA. Talk us through how that came about, how it was born.
Lockdown, COVID. A friend of my business partner, Jordan, messaged me and said, I'm bored of working in sales because I really wanted to work with musicians, talent. And I feel like there's an element where we can add value by helping to get brands. He's really good at sales, got 10 years working in sales. And I'd worked at labels, worked with management, worked with artists, understood talent management to some degree. So I was like, yeah, I've had this inkling that I wanted to go and pursue something of my own. I wasn't kind of getting frustrated with the streaming role. I was just thinking what my next move is. It's natural to think that. I was like, right. So I started that during COVID in the background with Jordan, and we signed a lot of influencers. We signed a fair few influencers, made some good choices, made some bad choices. I think everyone does.
Yeah.
So we started that in the background during COVID.
And okay, so explain, if you were explaining CCA to a young teenager, how would you explain what that company is?
Talent management first, and then creative direction strategy.
And we were talking prior to starting this about like talent management. What is that actually, when you're talking about talent, what is that talent? Because on paper, it looks like you're dealing with influencers and influencers are the talent. Is that accurate or not?
I'd say so. I'd say, why not?
Yeah.
You're a talented individual. You can create, you're a creator. I think it's...
What's the difference between an influencer and a creator, or is there no difference?
I don't know. I might get cancelled for saying this. But I think an influencer is a personality that isn't necessarily a creator.
Yeah.
That has a certain platform. And then when they leave that platform, they then get a lot of attention and they sell stuff, they promote stuff.
Yeah.
That's got a shelf life. Then you're just in that vacuum. Okay, when the next series comes out, you're just moving along the conveyor belt. And you kind of lose your hype. Whereas creative marketing is really just creative individuals who just know how to make good content, ideas are left, right, and center.
Okay. What I want to do now is rewind to New Year's Eve 2021. Quite an important moment in your life. You had a massive health scare. I actually remember, I don't know when it was, but I was having a conversation with Ben Coates, MD, Relentless, your old boss, I guess.
Yeah.
I spoke to him and he said, have you been in touch with Mike recently? I said, no. He said, yeah, you better reach out. He's on his arse. I don't think he said he's on his arse. I mean, worse than that, he might have said he's in a bit of a bad way.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he said that.
And so I did, and I found out a bit about it. But yeah, I mean, you nearly died, right?
Yeah.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened?
Look, I think the big thing to focus on with this was that it was peak COVID.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like lockdown 3 or whatever. It was a big thing, and the NHS was stretched. There was no beds. A&E was 12, 13-hour waits. Couldn't get an appointment with a GP because you had to go and get a PCR test before you go and see them.
Yeah.
So there's 48 hours before you get...
COVID seems like a lifetime ago.
It does. It feels like a bubble to me. The whole thing with a bubble.
Yeah. Okay, so carry on. Sorry.
No, it's so I felt a little bit ropey over December 2021. Wasn't feeling myself. And then I remember starting to feel like a sore throat, and that developed into like feeling like I was swallowing razor blades. And then I kind of grew this cyst in my neck, and it was like a golf ball. And I was like, right, I need to sort this out. And it was just me and my sister. Mum and dad were away. So like she literally saved my life. Like it's a huge thing. The irony that we used to fight and argue over the Sky remote.
Yeah.
And then she'd rush me to A&E.
Yeah.
Like perfect sibling combo, right? So the doctors weren't allowing me to go and see them because they said I've got COVID. I never had COVID. I don't think I did. Which meant that my issue on my neck wasn't getting treated. So they said I had to isolate for 10 days at home. Did the isolation. At that point, I was coughing up gunk. It was horrendous. I was fatigued, lost a fair bit of weight, couldn't eat. New Year's Eve was not one for the books.
Yeah.
And then she was like, right, I need to just sort this out. So she rushed me to hospital, A&E, got like checked out in that. They went, yeah, it's just COVID, maybe a little bit of tonsillitis. We'll look to take his tonsils out. And they put me in for 3 or 4 days. And then they discharged me. And I don't think they should have discharged me. And then when they discharged me, I went home and I was there for like 5 days. My dad came home. I was back in Liverpool for Christmas. So when they got back, like I just deteriorated. And that's when I lost serious weight. And then
how much weight are we talking?
in the month period, I think I dropped 3.5 stone.
Wow. Okay.
But like I said to you, it was like I had the weight to lose. So we can joke about it now because the ICU.
Well, you're still here. That's why we can joke about it.
Yeah. And also I do like to joke about it as well. I think it's not joke about it, but like not to view it as a negative thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a turn for the worst, went back into hospital. They rushed me in, had a CT scan, MRI scan. They realized that they discharged me, shouldn't discharge me. It was like panic stations. And then I got rushed into a different part of the hospital. And then from then, it was a blur. It was just, I couldn't remember. I then remember waking up in intensive care, like 3 days later, 4 days later, tubed up, getting my bloods done, had a bit of a ventilator in to help me breathe.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I had that. And then they said, look, we can't figure out what's wrong with you. We're doing tests. Anyway, it turns out that I had sepsis, which is blood poisoning, which isn't good. And it was just kind of like migrating where it could around my body. And then every time they're doing a test, the test wasn't catching up to where.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's a bit like old game surgery, trying to guess where the blood.
Yeah.
So then they said, look, if you get it in your brain and in your heart, Romeo done.
Game over. Jesus.
So they did scans and thankfully came back clear. And then, they put me on some medication, didn't work. My body kept rejecting it. And then eventually they said, look, to mum and dad, my family, look, this is serious. Like, you need to be thinking about what happens next. But I'm in the hospital and I think I'm getting out. I'm not like, oh.
You don't think you're checking out, you think you're getting out?
There's no chance I was.
Okay.
No chance.
Is that because they didn't let on to you?
No, I asked them to be completely transparent.
Oh, so they didn't know?
No, the hospital said, we're not sure what's going to happen with this. But I kept saying to them, I'm getting out. So I remember having 6 or 7 top physicians in the hospital looking after me because they had people looking after, seeing if I had an infectious disease, if I had a tumor, if I had some other cancerous stuff, liver stuff. They wanted to take out my appendix. They had every specialist working on me trying to figure out what it was. And then I thought, right, I've got to get a pally with everyone. I need to get a pally.
Yeah.
I need to be front of their charts, their rounds. Like, don't put me at the end. I'm getting out.
Yeah.
So then, anyway, long story short, thankfully they found a drug that my body accepted.
Yeah.
They were like, do you want to try it? And I was like, well, I'm not going to say no, am I? So they gave me the drug and I went from being in bed for 2 and a bit weeks, like not leaving the bed.
Yeah.
Then taking this drug, the drug did something. And then, I was able to walk around the hospital in like a Zimmer frame.
So wasn't there a point where basically it was looking bad, and they'd informed your parents? Basically, it sounded, when we spoke about it in the past, like they were maybe planning to make fucking funeral arrangements.
Yeah, that's my recollection of it. Like, I remember saying, I need the communication to be concrete all the way through, because the doctors are throwing around so many medical terms and phrases that they haven't got time to then put that into layman's terms. And then because COVID was so big that you had 5 minutes with the doctor. So I remember everything that was said. I remember having my phone on my chest and the doctor recording the voice note.
Yeah.
To mum, so I'd send it to my sister. My sister would then play it to mum and dad. She'd then transcribe that into notes to make sure she had a running commentary that was going on day by day. And I remember at one point they were like, "Me to talk to your mum and dad, like not with you here." And I was like,
Can you leave the room?
I was like, right, I know what this is going to be about.
Yeah.
And yeah, my understanding was called mum and dad and said, look, it's not looking good for Michael. So if we were you, we'd start to think about
worst case scenario.
Yeah, and as soon as you say that, like, that's when it gets real. But yeah, bless my mum, man. She had, again, my family are Catholic, mum's Catholic, and she had every parish in the north of England.
A lot of prayer.
Like, she was sending me, bless her, she was sending me bottles of holy water every day.
Yeah, were you drinking it?
She said that, you're drinking it. I was like, Mum, this has been on a shelf in a church for like 30 years. It's going to make me so much worse.
Yeah.
But like, stuff like that I can laugh about now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, listen, that call you give when your parents are getting told it's not looking good is it's never certainly isn't something you never want to hear. When you look back at something like that, and it's, you know, very much a moment, it's like a wow moment. What do you take away from something like that? I guess essentially, right, being on death's door, when you come up, like, we all get caught up in the world, and, you know, particularly the music industry, we think things can get a bit serious and a bit heavy sometimes, but not like that. Do you know what I mean? What kind of, I'm pretty sure that there's perspective to gain from that, but was there any kind of other things that you took away from it?
I think it was that. I think it's, everything isn't that serious.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest thing I took away from it, because we all get stresses, little things get stresses. Your stress is no bigger or less than my stress. It is what it is, but you get caught up in stupid nonsense that is irrelevant. And I think you are a lot more aware of that and what you say in a conversation and how you perceive a conversation, and you're able to think, you know what, I don't really care. Like, what?
Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that is a big thing.
Have you noticed a change in yourself since that's all happened?
Yeah, I got asked this by like Jordan not so long ago. I like to think that I am naturally a happy-go-lucky person.
Definitely always have been, yeah.
So I've always had a really good outlook, and I like to feel like I'm mentally strong. But when you have this laid on top of that, your just peripheral just goes, wow. And you can kind of see things in a different way. The issue that I had was that I've since had like long-term side effects from being in hospital. So I'm still dealing with that. But even though I know I've got that, it's quite serious, but I'm managing it.
Yeah.
I'm still like, it could be the opposite of that. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, glad you're still here.
Cheers, mate. I'm glad I survived through this podcast.
Okay. What I want to talk about now is, obviously, with what you're doing now with Creative Collective Agency, you're in that world of influencer marketing, right?
Yeah.
And creators, talent, all of that.
Yeah.
It's become it's become a very big thing for the music industry. Rise of TikTok. We'll get into TikTok in a sec. I spoke to an exec at a label the other day who had said that they were, there's two actually I've spoken to at different times, who question the value that is placed on influencer marketing campaigns, laying down a wad of cash for influencer marketing, because they can't measure the return on investment. Now, so I want to get your view on that. And I guess, so there's sort of two questions. Can you measure the return on investment? When you pay that money, what are you looking to get in return? And what is the value of social media when you're looking at driving streams of songs? Can social media drive the streams of songs?
I think it definitely has the ability to. I think it can be done if it makes sense for both audiences, right? So if you're trying to push a song, you're looking for your return on that to be, I want the song to go higher in the charts, and that's just what everyone wants. But that I don't think that is the case anymore in terms of what social media can do. And I don't think it's just a one-trick pony of just supercharging 2 or 3 influencers, giving them some money, and then putting the song over video, and then hoping that it works, right? I don't think I don't think we're in that time anymore. I think we've moved on. I think now it's look at influencer marketing within your marketing. So don't just
as a piece of your marketing mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need something to tip a record over from the 30 to the 20 to the 20 to the 10 to the wherever. You're going to need something in your arsenal to make that happen. So I think it's more about how labels view creative marketing, not as
creator or creative.
Creator marketing,
right?
As how they view it, not as, oh, we gave this artist X amount of money last campaign, it didn't work, that's it. I think if you'd properly brought us in earlier in the campaigns, the conversation, the creator could have said, yeah, I can get on board with this, and I think I can help with this by doing this, this, and this. So then you've got that partnership straight away, and then you can work on the asset together. Whereas most things that I've experienced, well, situations with labels, is it's reactive marketing. It's right, we've got to get the song in the 10 by Thursday. It's Tuesday. You got to deliver it yesterday. We haven't got any money for it. That's not a conversation that I want to have with my creators, because they're going to go, Mike, why? It's just stress, right? Whereas I'm like, it is, but from my experience, it can open your floodgates to this audience, this person, whatever. It can snowball. So I think influencer marketing can be done properly and really help campaigns if the campaign allows to have time to work with it, and secondly, if there is natural synergy between the song, the artist, and the creator.
I think that's sort of the key point for me, because we were talking before again, like for me, sometimes from what I've seen, there's like this bit of a scattergun approach. Throw enough, something will go viral. Yeah. Right? Or would you agree?
I think everyone's chasing that Fleetwood Mac moment, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah, I guess. And there's very much a difference between the Fleetwood Mac moment and the ones we were talking about, which is Kate Bush running up that hill, Stranger Things.
Sinks.
Sophie Ellis-Bextor on Saltburn. There is that kind of sync that now feels more important than ever before in terms of what it can do on socials. But that, the Fleetwood Mac was kind of an iconic moment on TikTok. But they're few and far between, right?
100%. Well, that's a blueprint. That's a case study. People want that. Nobody would have thought, oh, this dude.
But I don't. Can you control that?
But I no, you can't. You can't. Yes and no. Yes, if you are working with creators, he's had this idea, put the song over it, skateboarding down a hill. He's created something there, right? It's come from a place.
But that's very organic, the way that's come about.
Yeah, correct. But again, that was kind of one of the first kind of partnerships or use of a record, or helping. It wasn't even helping a record. It was a catalog. It was a classic. It just worked because there was content, and the content made sense, right? And it was good content. But when you give a creator 24 hours to make a bit of content with just one fee, bear in mind, if you give the creator, say, one fee and just say it's 5K, right? You're expecting them to go and turn something around within 24 hours. What really happens is that the creator has that 5K minus the commission from the agency. Depending on if it's what the campaign is, they may not take a commission on that. But of that 5K, they may have an idea to go and execute something, but that's going to cost them 2 or 3K.
To produce it?
It's correct. Right? And you give them 24, say you give them a week to go and produce. They've got to, because everything's so last minute on your end, and it's such a priority, that's a domino effect for the entire thing. That means getting lighting equipment rented is now going to be a premium because you need it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Getting this person in to come help filming it, they're going to have to pull back from another job to then come and do this job. Therefore, that's going to add a premium to what they're doing.
But I mean, I've thought, and I might be wrong in this, is that the very kind of last minute nature of what the music industry and how things unfold. I kind of felt like with creators, you don't. Whilst you can say we need this as soon as possible, well, they'll be like, well, I'll do it when I can.
100%. They're not
at the mercy of the music industry.
100%. Right? They're at mercy of no one.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like it's just them behind.
So that 24-hour deadline is kind of like, well, what does that apply to?
100%. But then they may turn around and say, you know what, I've got an idea. This PR event, just say this actor's in town. I'm going to just try and see if we can do anything with them. Then we're like, right, love the idea. It's reactive. Let's see how we can make it happen. And I imagine that's what labels think as well on their end, right? But it's allowing the creator to go and create something with enough time that they know they can do to a really good level that makes sense for, more importantly, for them and their audience. Because you may come to a creator and say, I want to make a piece of content with you, but there's no natural synergy there, not just in terms of the artist and the record and the creator, but the creator may not have done anything in music. So then they're going to think, hang on, we've also got to manage that and be like, is this going to upset your algorithm? Is this going to slow things down for you? Is this actually worth it? Is it worth X amount of money? And that's the dialogue that we have on a regular basis.
Because I guess, like, there's very much dealing with, I guess, creators that work within the music field, and there's probably not that many in the grand scheme of things versus creators as a whole. It'll be a small percentage. But when I always talk about, like, if you've got one of those, the DJ that's doing their list of songs or whatever, or focusing on a particular track, versus someone that's using the same song but is cooking a meal, right? The two very different kind of uses of the song. One is front and center, one is background, right? And so in that instance, whilst the one that's the cooking video could be millions and millions of followers, and this one's, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, which one has more value? So my question is, ultimately, like, whatever one of those we're looking at, and let's focus on TikTok, does TikTok drive streams on DSPs like Spotify?
I think it used to. I think there was a time when there was a TikTok boom and you'd have your viral hits. I think there was a time when, yes, during lockdown, maybe you had more eyeballs, more attention, for sure. Nowadays, I don't know, not so much.
It's quite a broad question for me to ask in terms of because it's kind of like there's not really one answer, because it really does depend on the type of campaign, right?
Yeah, but then going back to the previous point, it's not just that one creator asset in isolation to supercharge it. Unless you've got a creator who's got 40 million plus and you've got, you know what, it's worth paying the money. It's literally going to just make a difference between getting a B list or the A list or from the 20 into 10.
So TikTok recently, let's say 2023, and as the discussion in the industry has always been that what I feel from kind of looking in, TikTok was crucial to the music industry. Do you think that is still the same in 2024?
I think I can speak more on the other side,
right, from
the creator world as opposed to label world. Just at this time where I'm at right now, from my point of view, no. I think creators view a conversation or a partnership with an artist or a brand or a label just as a brand deal.
Yeah,
it's just
brand deal they get paid less for.
We may get paid an absolute packet for a brand deal.
That's what I'm saying. Compared to the music industry, right?
Yeah. So then it's just it's a great conversation that I really do enjoy having with the agency and with other people, and especially the creators, because you're balancing up what's your value, right? Like, what's your currency? Okay, you got the financial thing, but what is your currency? Your currency is your audience. Yeah. Right. The currency within the audience is the likes, the shares, the follows. That's what you want. And so I think less so for creators thinking, oh, I need to do this campaign with this artist because it's going to give me X. When in actual fact, doing a sync with a big artist, it may do nothing for you. Yeah.
Do you think then, based on what you were saying, that perhaps because the importance of TikTok in 2024 is not as valuable as perhaps it was in 2023, do you think that was a part of the reason why Universal decided to put a catalog?
My opinion, my thoughts with TikTok, I still think TikTok is super, super, super important
for the music industry.
Yeah. From
as important as it was last year. it's
not fair to say that because
early doors.
Well, yeah, and
a lot's happened in the last.
A lot's happening, and it's a really exciting time to be around this, like observe and talk to people like this and have opinions and say, okay, what is this space? But I do think TikTok carries importance compared to last year. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think if the whole universal TikTok thing wasn't happening, the Sophie Ellis Bextor record would have
got number one. Because it's number two, right?
It's a machine. Like if you actually look at the UGC videos for that, fans are still uploading their own versions. Whether they pitch it up, they slow it down, they speed up. I know the sped up and the speed up and slow down thing is not new, been doing it for ages. But the fans are doing it, right? The fans will always do it. They'll find a way.
Dictate, yeah.
So even if Universal take the songs off, they still got this issue, whereas fans are still making their own versions of it, and then they're moving on TikTok. And then TikTok are like, well, we can't really control this because there's so many people.
Of them,
Like, what do we do? And then by doing so, Universal are going to turn around and go, right, we're going to give you this lawsuit across this artist, and then you've got an even bigger conversation. It's like, right, how do we resolve this? Where does it go to court? And if it goes to court, then the rest of the majors in the industry are going to be like, right, let's see what happens here, because whatever they do is going to be so public.
What do you think Sony and if we keep it to the majors, what do you think Sony and Warner, when they're sitting on the sidelines looking at this battle, what do you think?
I need to declare, like, I am not like a specialist or a spokesperson for anyone.
Okay. Disclaimer.
Cool. I need to just get that out there because I may be completely wrong on what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I just think they just look around thinking, right, two parts. What deals are they trying to get that we can then mirror and change ours? And then secondly, how can we make the most of Universal Catalog not being on the platform?
Yeah.
When they own 33% of the industry, what can we do? How can we supercharge this?
So sort of two opportunities in a sense. There's making the most of Universal not being there, and the sort of, I guess, the domino effect of Universal securing whatever deal they're after. It will get resolved, right?
Honestly,
don't know. You don't know?
I don't know.
Do you? If you're a betting man,
I'll ask.
Are you a betting man?
I'll ask Lucian. I'll let you know. I don't know. Honestly, well, I don't know. Like,
it kind of feels like surely it has to.
It has to be resolved. You've got all these global these artists, man. Like, everyone's aware of TikTok, right? That's the thing. They both need each other. TikTok needs the majors, and the majors need TikTok.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, they'll figure it out.
We've seen the statements from Universal and the reasons why they've done it, and it does sort of make sense. I actually ran a poll on my LinkedIn recently. Who are you siding with, TikTok versus Universal?
But then this is my thing. Like, people like you are just making it a war.
Here's my disclaimer. Whilst I put I put a neither.
Okay. And what was the?
That was the override. That was the winner. Neither.
It's the way it should be. Because I
think the media in where it's been sort of reported has obviously kind of built it up to be this clash of the titans.
Yeah, I think.
But I think what you said is right. They need each other.
They do. It's yin and yang, 100%.
But I ultimately it feels like Universal just wants what's fair, right?
And I agree with that. And I also think a part of that, for the minimal reading I've done upon it, just from what I've heard, or my take on it, it's the AI elements is the most exciting part of that as well.
Why? Because
that is a new component, which I view as a marketing tool. It's a tool, like, primarily. How can the majors and the tech companies, TikTok, work out how to monetize that and ensure that it's not the dominant thing that everyone is consuming, and it completely blows the arts out the water?
Wait, when you're saying, are you talking from the perspective of music being created and then not monetized?
Yeah. Yes, or not having control,
right,
of the voice. Like, I'm not privy to the conversations that Universal talking TikTok about and they're annoyed about, but I imagine within that there's also a conversation, right, we haven't got a say, we're not getting paid fairly, we're not getting our cut of this when this song's got 3 or 4 million. This video's got 3 or 4 million views, and it's using an artist's voice that's assigned to us. I think, yeah, I think AI and music. Is it where we're going?
Well, listen, I think you took us there. I think we are going to AI. I think what I really want to talk about with AI is kind of the question that I usually ask. I have asked other guests is when it comes to AI in the music industry. If we keep it there, I've always asked: is it a threat or opportunity? Now, we've spoke before, and what I think the better way to frame it is, rather than thinking about all the damning opinions, the negativity, and I understand why there are those trains of thought. If we look at kind of the positive impact that AI can have in the music industry and on music, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I do think this is also in two parts. I think the first part is that everybody needs to work out how to fairly get compensated. That's across the labels, the artists, the publishers, everything. And the other part of that is protecting the arts and making sure that AI isn't the dominant way of people consuming things over original ideas and original creativity. That for me is really the important bit. So I think the industry has been protected from copyright from 3 areas, which is sampling, covers, and interpolation, right? So that's been sorted for a long, long time.
Yeah.
We know where we are with that. The difference is with AI is that I don't know, the question is AI an original idea, right? Using an artist's voice, which therefore it's an original composition, or the AI just has so many like data sets they run through. There's thousands.
Yeah.
So all that's doing is listening and mapping out and hearing what has been done from that artist and then giving its own rendition of it. So is that interpretation and inspiration, or is that a brand new composition that then you need to go and monetize? That's my point with.
I hope that's a rhetorical question.
I don't know. That's where I'm having that's the conversations that I'm having.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Well, I would say at the moment no one does, and that's what they're trying to figure out, right? It seems. Okay, that's AI.
So and then the second point of that is actually like making sure that AI isn't the dominant thing that's overtaken original ideas and human creation and being the only thing that people consume. I think that's what the writer community and the creator community that's what everyone's kind of concerned about, thinking, where do we fit in this now? Like, is it all going to be tech driven and like copying of what we've just done?
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, and I'm not going to say too much on it because we've already gone on for 3 days, but AI for now and for the foreseeable, I say, will need creative input. We'll need ideas, original ideas. So I think that's where the human element comes from. I think ultimately when people are looking at AI as a tool today, it's to increase productivity and improve efficiency when used in the right way. Now, obviously, there's all these kind of like, it's going to take jobs, it's going to do that. Like, it may well do. It's also going to create jobs. But I think, again, we spoke about trying to look at the positive side of AI, and there's a lot to come from it, but it's just going to be, it's a minefield trying to manage it. I don't know how they're going to manage all these things, without getting into deep fake and all that.
Yeah. But then I think there's, what we're doing right now with labels is that we, and tech companies, that we're only focusing on the output of an asset, audio, video, right? It's the end product. We're not having a conversation about the input. Like, say if you make...
Do you mean the idea or not?
Yeah. So say for example, you make a Justin Bieber song, right? Using AI. It takes you 3 minutes to make this whole song. You repeat that and you've got 20. You upload that to DSPs. The DSPs don't have anything to track or make sure or tell you or tell themselves if that is a human creation or an AI thing. It just goes through. It's because they're only focused on the output. And that's all that we can really properly argue over right now is the end product. That's all we're talking about now. How do we have a conversation and control what's going in?
Well, I mean, I've seen recently, and again, to end on this AI part, like I've seen recently the kind of barrier to entry. Back in the day when you used to have to get your CDs into HMV, to Tesco, to Morrison's, Asda, etc. Not everyone could just put their CDs on the shelf, right? You had to go through a process, and now the barrier to entry to upload your music, there is no barrier. Anyone can do it. Hence why there's all these articles about X percent or a large percentage of music getting less than 1,000 streams. And so I don't know, if that's one problem, like aside from AI, but actually if you're then going to have all this AI music, then maybe one thing to look at is, do you need to create a barrier to entry on DSPs?
I think you do, but I think that comes down to like how the product's made. If it's made in, say, a music software like a Logic or whatever, or a Premiere Pro video, is there something you can add on to the ISRC that tells you that this is made with AI? Therefore, when I deliver to, say, Ditto or a distributor, it picks it up and it says, yeah, this is made by AI. Therefore, everyone's aware.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's finish then on the next big thing. We've already spoken about AI, right? I'm interested to know, in your opinion, if it's an artist, if there's a genre or just a trend, what do you think is the next big thing?
Honestly, I don't think I could answer this question.
Forget it.
No, it's such a broad thing. It's like I'm trying to do a lot of work with my creators now and try and nudge them into the gaming space.
Okay. Gaming.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It dwarfs everything else. And then obviously, I'm not saying anything that is new.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to get bigger. Like if you look at like marquee games that are going to come out, like GTA.
Yeah.
When that comes out again, it changed everything 10 years ago. It's going to change everything again.
Right.
Like those marquee drops that everyone's waiting for, that's what's going to properly shift culture.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to my creators now, being like, what can you align yourself that when this does happen, you're a part of it, you're in the conversation, and it's going to help you and your creator longevity.
There you go. We got there in the end then. You said it.
Sorry.
Gaming. Okay. Mike, thanks very much for your time. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
It was solid, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think you're a bit worried about it to begin with, weren't you?
I was cautious about it.
It's a good bit of conversation there. It went on for ages, but that's all good.
Yeah, that was also a bit of a concern.
Solid. Mike, thanks very much, mate.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.